ready to dive in. Today we're tackling Help, that post-Malone track featuring Morgan Wallen. It's been generating some serious buzz, and you guys sent over some really interesting articles breaking down the lyrics.
It's definitely more than just a catchy tune.
Yeah, the source we're looking at called it a raw examination of blame and responsibility when a relationship falls apart. And it jumps right into that blame game, too.
Oh, for sure.
Like right from those first lines. You got a lot of nerve, don't you, baby? I only hit the curb because you made me. Whoa, instant deflection.
It is, and it's so relatable, right?
Oh, absolutely.
How often do we blame outside forces instead of looking at our own part in things?
All the time, probably. It's human nature. But then he sings, living in your big glass house with a view. That's got to be more than just a random image, right?
Definitely not. The glass house is a powerful metaphor. The source interprets it as a call-out on hypocrisy. We judge others so harshly while ignoring our own flaws.
Like we're all living in glass houses these days, especially with social media.
Exactly. Vulnerable, but still throwing stones. It makes you think, when have we been the ones judging? And when have we felt that vulnerability ourselves?
Ooh, good point. Makes you squirm a little, huh?
A bit. Self-awareness can be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's necessary. And that's what this song does so well. I think it forces us to look in the mirror.
For sure. And then that chorus hits. It's undeniably catchy, but when you listen to the words...
I had some help.
Yeah.
It ain't like I can make this kind of mess all by myself.
Right. There's vulnerability there, admitting fault, but he's also saying, hey, I wasn't the only one.
It is. It pushes back against that tendency we have, to simplify things, to find that one person to blame.
Oh, totally. But relationships are messy, conflicts are messy. It's never that black and white.
Exactly. And it reminds me of those group projects where everyone has good intentions, but it just goes wrong.
Yeah, the too many cooks scenario.
Exactly. And there's this line, they say, teamwork makes the dream work. Hell, I had some help.
So ironic, right? Because sometimes that help actually makes things worse.
Right. So then that begs the question, when does collaboration become counterproductive? When does everyone's input, even if it's well-intentioned, just create more chaos?
Ooh, that's a good one to ponder. And it makes you think about all the times we've been on both sides of that. Giving help, needing help. It's complicated.
Definitely. And it leads to another question. How do we untangle that mess? Because it's not about letting anyone off the hook. It's about understanding how all our choices together create the situation.
And then there's that line that just hits you right in the chest. It takes two to break a heart in two. Simple, but so powerful.
Absolutely. It captures that ache of heartbreak, but also acknowledges the shared responsibility.
Yeah, you can feel wronged and still recognize your own part in how things went down. I think that's one of the toughest things to grasp in any relationship.
It is. It's not about blame. It's about understanding the shades of gray and how we interact. And this song doesn't shy away from that complexity, which is what makes it resonate so much.
It's like the song is saying, hey, we've all been there. Those messy relationships, those moments where we messed up.
It is. It's that shared human experience.
And what's interesting is how the song tackles these heavy themes with a bit of humor, too.
Yes. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's relatable.
Right. Because life is messy, and sometimes you just got to laugh at the absurdity of it all. But also, you got to learn from those messes, too. Come out the other side a little wiser, hopefully.
Exactly. And that's where the deeper lessons from Help come into play. We've got the blame game, the glass house, the shared heartbreak. So what are the bigger takeaways here?
Yeah, what are the real-world lessons we can pull from this song? Let's dig into those. So Help is clearly more than just your typical breakup song. It's like a commentary on being human, with all the screw-ups and complications that come with it.
Right. And one thing that really resonated with me from the source is how the song goes beyond blame. It's about understanding the consequences, the ripple effects of what we do.
That's a good point. Even when you're feeling justified in being angry or hurt, you still got to own up to your part in how things unfolded.
Absolutely. It's not about saying everyone's innocent, but realizing that we all play a role. We're part of this bigger system, and our choices have an impact on everyone around us.
It's kind of like that butterfly effect thing, right? One tiny flap of its wings can cause a chain reaction across the whole world. Maybe our choices aren't quite that dramatic, but still.
I see what you mean. And it makes you think about how often we get stuck on who messed up instead of looking at the bigger picture.
Because let's be real, it's way easier to point fingers than to look at ourselves.
It is. But Help challenges us to do that harder work, to reflect and hold ourselves accountable.
And it does it with a bit of humor, too, which I like. There's that line, swear I've had my days, babe, but lately it's been weeks. It's funny, but it also captures that feeling of being stuck, of feeling like life's just been throwing punches.
And when we feel that way, when we're down and maybe even losing hope, it's tempting to just shut everyone out, you know,
Yeah.
to wallow.
Oh, totally. Done that a few times myself. But the song seems to be saying that connecting with people is actually what gets you through those rough patches.
Right. It's about reaching out, admitting you need help, even when it feels scary to be that vulnerable.
Because asking for help is tough, makes you feel exposed.
It can. But it's also a sign of strength, of being self-aware. It's realizing that we don't have to go through those hard times alone.
And the song also points out how important it is to offer that help to others without judging.
Yes. It's about creating a safe space for people to let their guard down, to talk about what they're struggling with without feeling judged or ashamed.
So it's not just about a relationship that went south. It's about being human, about the struggles we all share, and our ability to grow and connect with each other.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we're all works in progress. We all screw up. We all need help sometimes. And reaching out to others, whether it's through music or sharing our experiences or just asking for support, can make a huge difference.
And this song reminds us that even when things are chaotic and your heart is breaking, there's still hope. Hope for learning, healing, and moving forward.
It's a really powerful message. And it means a lot, especially in a world where it feels like we're constantly bombarded with negativity and people fighting.
I'm curious, now that we've unpacked all this, what are some of the biggest takeaways for you personally?
For me, it's that reminder about how interconnected we all are. Our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. And owning our part in this situation is the first step toward making things better.
I love that. Taking responsibility instead of playing the blame game. And it makes me think about how powerful it is to be vulnerable, admitting you need help, that you don't have it all figured out. That's not weakness, that's strength.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it opens the door to real connection and growth.
It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just say, hey, I need some help here.
That's a great point. And this whole conversation makes me think about what the source said about our tendency to avoid responsibility, especially in relationships. It's human nature, but how do we become more aware of it in ourselves?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think it's the perfect lead-in to the last part of our deep dive. We can explore some practical ways to become more accountable in our own lives.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so we've covered the big ideas and help, but let's bring it down to earth a little. How do we actually become more accountable in our own lives? It's easy to slip into that blame game mode, especially when you're feeling all those emotions.
It really is. And that's where being self-aware is so important. Like next time you feel yourself wanting to point the finger, try hitting pause for a second. Take a breath and ask yourself, okay, what's my part in this? Might be a little uncomfortable at first, but it can change everything.
It's almost like taking responsibility before you even know if you need to, right? But that sets a different tone from the start.
It does. Instead of going straight to that defensive mode, you're opening up the conversation in a more honest, more constructive way. And you know what? When you show that accountability, it can actually inspire other people to do the same.
Like it sets a good example. But how do you actually do that? It's easy to say, be more accountable, but what are the concrete steps?
Well, one thing you can try is to be specific when you're taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Don't just say, sorry. Tell the person how your actions affected them. Like, I realize I sounded dismissive, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, because just saying sorry can sound empty sometimes, especially if it doesn't feel like you really get how you impacted the other person.
Exactly. It's about showing you understand, showing empathy. And that creates a space for forgiveness, for moving forward.
Okay, so be specific and be empathetic. What else?
Another thing is to shift your focus from blame to solutions. So instead of getting stuck on who messed up, try to brainstorm ways to fix things, or even just prevent it from happening again.
It's like shifting from feeling like a victim to feeling empowered, right? You're taking charge and figuring out a way forward together.
Exactly. It's saying, okay, this happened, now what?
And sometimes that might mean getting help from someone outside the situation, like a therapist, or maybe even a mediator.
For sure. There's zero shame in asking for help from someone who can see things from a different angle. Sometimes you need that fresh perspective to see things clearly and find a good solution.
You know, one thing I really appreciate about help is that it reminds you that even when you're at your lowest, you're not alone in this. We're all in the same boat, going through it together.
It's such an important message. We all mess up, we all stumble, we all need a hand sometimes. And connecting with others, whether it's through music or sharing our experiences or just reaching out, can make all the difference.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into help, I think the big takeaway here is that accountability is a journey, not a destination. It's all about constantly checking yourself, talking things out, and being willing to let your guard down, both with yourself and other people.
That's a great way to put it. And it's a journey worth taking, for sure. Because when we embrace accountability, we open ourselves up to deeper connections, to understanding each other better, and in the end, to a more fulfilling life.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Thanks for hanging out with us while we explored all the layers of meaning and help. Hopefully, this got you thinking and maybe even inspired you to be a little more accountable in your own life.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. Reach out, connect with people, keep the conversation going.
Until next time, keep diving deep.